Good morning. Australians have turned out in their tens of thousands to take part in dawn services around the country. We'll be crossing to our reporters in Melbourne and Brisbane. But let's go first to Sylvia Jeffries in Sydney. Sylvia, what's the atmosphere there this morning?
Well, Ben, it's been solemn as always, but it's also been quite positive this morning. Many people I've spoken to say they're simply grateful to have the opportunity to come and give thanks and to pay respect and pay tribute to our troops. 15,000 people turned up for the dawn service here in Sydney this morning. They filled Martin Place, from one end to the other, and they overflowed into both sides of Pitt Street. Many families travelled in together. Many people simply came alone as well, but of course, as always, they gathered around the cenotaph, the focus of the dawn service here in Sydney, in a very special place, a place that holds special significance for this city. Now, the Anzac address this year was delivered by Rear Admiral Tim Barrett, the commander of the Australian fleet. He, of course, reflected on this, the 98th anniversary of the Battle of Gallipoli, but he also paid special tribute, in particular, to the families among us who are still awaiting the safe return of their loved ones serving overseas. A lot of young people in the crowd too. A lot of people I spoke to were really, I think, impressed to see how many young people, school children, had come in for the service this morning. Of course, the march is yet to get underway. That happens at 9 o'clock this morning. It'll start here at Martin Place, weave through the city and end up at Hyde Park. There is the last post beginning behind me now, so we'll leave it there for the moment, Ben.
No problem, Sylvia. Thank you very much for that. Let's now go to Christine Ahern at Melbourne's Shrine of Remembrance. Christine, always big crowds. How's it been this morning?
Well, Ben, it was a very moving service, as it always is. They're expecting around about 45,000 people here, and I have to say they would come close to that. It was an absolutely huge crowd, thankfully under perfect skies, very different to last year, but they all stood in complete silence, shoulder to shoulder, shrouded in darkness, for those haunting sounds of the last post, which began the service. Then the choir sang "Abide with Me," the sky temporarily lit up by the gunfire salute. We also heard from Private Greg Williams, who served in Afghanistan. He said the war was a controversial and costly one, but today was not the day to question it. Instead, to honour, of course, those brave Australian men and women. He said the Anzac spirit in Afghanistan was unmistakable, and while the word Anzac means different things to different people, it always brings us together. As you can see, there's still a lot of people here at the shrine. They're all lining up. All those hundreds of people are still lining up to enter the shrine to lay a wreath. Then there's the traditional gunfire breakfast and, of course, Ben, the Anzac Day March. It'll make the veterans will make their way down St Kilda Road here to the Shrine of Remembrance.
Just incredible, huge crowds. Thank you so much for that, Christine. We'll now go to Alison Ariotti in Brisbane. Alison, the service is over there, but commemorations will continue for the rest of the day.
They certainly will. There are a number of ceremonies that will be taking place right around Brisbane. The main Brisbane March starts at 10 o'clock, and we know that there will be 2,500 troops coming in from Enoggera, from the Gallipoli barracks, around 1,000 Air Force personnel who will be taking part in that parade as well, and thousands of spectators expected. If the parade there is as supported as well as this morning's dawn service, it will be incredible, because there were about 18,000 people who came out this morning, who filled the area around the Shrine of Remembrance. They listened to hymns sung by the Brisbane Boys College Choir. They also listened to the Governor, Penelope Wensley, address the Assembly, and she really described today as a curious mix of sorrow and regret, as well as pride and celebration. And there were certainly a lot of people proudly wearing medals belonging to their relatives, belonging to veterans who've served in any number of wars. It was very much a well-supported service, as I said, and a lot of people reflecting on the fact that Queensland has lost 3 soldiers in the past year. So certainly a moving ceremony here today. Down on the Gold Coast, there have also been some beautiful dawn services beside the beach, but certainly a day that will be very well supported here in Queensland.
And well told as well. Alison Ariotti, thank you so much for that. Lisa, over to you.
Well, that's a snapshot of the dawn services around the country, but thousands of Australians have made the pilgrimage to battlefields overseas.